I decided to shoot this video because it's far too much to try to text and to get an accurate comprehension. Trying to type out stuff on Facebook really don't work too well. Don't work too well. That's why I love doing videos and love doing Zooms with people talking about this stuff. All right, so let's go. Let's dissect what you said. I follow the far left. It really doesn't follow anything of the Bible. Let's start like this. Let me say this. We're called to follow the laws of the land as long as it doesn't contradict God's law, correct? And on earth, we are always under the authority of man's law, right? We're always going to have a president. We're always going to have somebody. We're always going to have the police. We're always going to have the government telling us what we have to do and telling us what the laws of the land are that we must follow. So no matter who's in control here on earth, we're always going to have to abide by those laws. But here's where it gets. Here's where I tend to disagree. You know, the far right, Christian nationalists, the Republicans, they love telling people what they can't do. Right? It was my body, my choice with COVID. But when it comes to abortion, my body no longer my choice. Right? Because they want to enforce what they want to do. Right? Then when it comes to separation of church and state, but Texas now Republicans are trying to force. They're trying to force the the uh, the Ten Commandments in the schools. Is that a bad idea? Is a good idea? First of all, I'm all for everybody learning what the Ten Commandments are, but the Republicans don't seem to follow the Ten Commandments, right? First Amendment speech. You can all. I mean, not first. I'm sorry. Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not lie. Now we know all politicians lie. We know that. That's a given. We know that because man is man. But the Republican Party, the far right, the Christian right, they lie everything they say. You cannot sit here and tell me Trump is not a perpetual liar. Um, they said they weren't going to cut Medicaid. Said they weren't going to cut SNAP. Said they weren't going to cut Social Security. They all said all that stuff, right? They said they didn't understand. They didn't know who Project 2025 was. We're going to do it. All lies, right? He was going to end the war in Ukraine. All lies. He was going to bring gas prices down the first day. All lies. Egg prices. All lies. He lies. Whenever the Republican Party is talking, whenever they are speaking, they're lying. That's why they've been told not to do town halls. They've been told because they know they're going to be pressed on all of these issues. So that's crazy. And then you have a leader. It says, Trump, a sexual predator, convicted sexual predator, right? A self-proclaimed sexual predator, right? Because he said he can grab on by the. He said that, right? So he's proclaiming that he's a sexual predator, and y'all follow that. It's okay. Now just imagine if Biden or Obama come out and said that. Just imagine if Biden or Obama had come out and said, "I could shoot somebody in the park and not lose a single vote." Right? Just imagine if Obama had, 5 children by 3 separate wives. Right? Thou shalt not commit adultery, but y'all praise Trump, right? in all his stuff. So look, evil is done on both sides. There's no doubt. Evil is done on both sides. But God gave man free will. And the Republican Party does not want to give people free will, right? Trump and we're bringing in the South African refugees because they're being persecuted. There is genocide, white genocide. Stop. Stop with the bull. Stop with the bull. It's everything white with him, right? Because the South Sudanese and the Congolese, they're feeling genocide daily, but they're being denied, right? It's all about being white. And you can condone that if you want. That's fine. I don't, you can vote who you want to. You can, but just call it what it is, right? So we're always going to have, we're always going to have problems from both sides. But I tend to go with the side that at least don't want to take away people's rights. Is homosexuality a sin? Of course it is. I truly believe it is. I don't like transgenderism, right? But God gave man free will to make his choices, whether these choices be right or wrong. Whether our choices are right or wrong. Because God could have actually created Adam and Eve, right, 100% flawless, which he did, and not had the snake in the garden. He could have made it to where man was 100%, just like that movie Pleasantville. The world could have been like Pleasantville for all eternity. But where would God have gotten the glory out of that? If he created man and woman never to even the thought of sin. Right? He wants man and woman. He wants man, he wants man to love him for him. He wants man to love him of their own free will. Right? God could have created you and me Women and men, all of us, he could have created us as robots in our minds, per se, that we never sinned, right? Because God can do all things, right? He could have created us sinless and to be sinless. I say it like that. He could have created us to be sinless. But where would he have gotten the glory out of that, right? How do you get the glory out of creating something that can never, ever do wrong, right? Versus creating something and giving them the option to do what they want to do. Love me if you want to. Hate me if you want to. But he gets the glory out of showing his magnificent self and his wonders, right? Can't do all that when you got robots, right? Can't do all that. Can't get the glory out of that. So, are both sides evil? Yes. Man is evil. There is no way around. There is no perfect system. But the Christian right, the alt-right, the Christian right, the Christian nationalists, the Southern evangelical Christians, right? What, going to church on Sundays and then hanging black folk, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, right? And that's their beliefs now. It's all about white because they understand that by 2040 they're going to be a minority, and they know what they've done to minorities. And that's what Trump is pushing for, getting rid of all things black, all things cultural. He's getting rid of that. Right? Tearing down in anything, removing anything that has minorities in the Bible. So, we'll never agree on this. Only thing we can do is agree to disagree on it. And again, I'm not saying the left is perfect. Yes, they have sin. But at least they give us a choice. At least they love the people. At least they love people. And they love everybody, right? LGBTs, they love the gays, they love minorities, they love everybody. They give everybody the chance to do, right? If Jesus was walking the earth right now, the Christian nationalists and the Christian right would deport him. All right? And I hate that all this craziness about, well, if you come here legally, white people didn't come here legally, did they? You can believe what you want to believe, all this stuff, but Christopher Columbus did not discover America. America was already discovered, and before he got here, the Indians and Native Americans didn't need locks on doors, right? They didn't have locks, but they didn't need it, right? They didn't have all these diseases. They didn't have all this corruption. Everywhere Americans go is corruption. Everywhere Americans go, we bring war. In the name of religion. I mean, we can agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree. But I know who I serve. And I know the God that I serve says to love everyone, no matter their flaws, right? He hates the sin, not the sinner. The Christian right and the Christian Southern evangelical Christians seem like they hate everything that's not them. Trump hates everything that's not a millionaire and a billionaire and white. So I can't go there. You can ride with it all day you want. That's fine. And there's nothing you can say that's going to sway me and sway my thinking on it.